One would say that I'm a jack of all trades and master of none, and that's contributed to the eclectic resume that I have had over the years. From working in retail, to the medical field, to now the trucking industry, I've done pretty much everything. Hence why I titled this channel as such. So I want to go down memory lane and share with you guys all the jobs that I have had over the years and what I learned from them. So in my last video, I mentioned how I like to try pretty much anything just so I could look back and say, at least I did that. Well, there's actually one thing I regret not doing, and that's joining the military. Looking back now, I regret it, but back then, furthest thing from my mind. I was a rambunctious, immature kid that all he wanted to do was hang out with his friends and chase girls. I had no structure, no discipline, and I just felt like joining the military would give me the guidance that I desperately needed. But I think I still turned out pretty okay.
Maybe, maybe not.
And I contributed my past experiences that I learned from that gave me the structure and discipline that I needed to help me grow over the years. So my first job that I can remember early on was being a paper boy. Does that job still exist? It was actually my friend's route that he assigned to me after leaving for the summer. It showed me what it took to be responsible. Not only that, it introduced me to 5 a.m. I didn't even know what 5 a.m. looked like at the time. Those were the days when I used to sleep for like 16 hours. It was brutal. I remember every Sunday I'd get delivered 2 different piles, the paper and the coupon section. I would then have to put them all together and deliver them before the sun came out. Yes, it's as miserable as it sounds. My next job was Wendy's. I only worked there for about a month. But I did learn why Dave Thomas shaped his burger patties into that familiar square shape. For those that don't know, Dave Thomas is the founder of Wendy's, and he used to be the spokesman in the 80s and 90s. Well, he shaped his burger patties into a square because, well, Dave Thomas doesn't cut corners. Now you all could sleep soundly knowing that information. So I left Wendy's to work for a company called Odd Jobs as a stock boy. I'm pretty sure it's kind of like similar to like a Dollar Tree. And at this job, I learned that life is not designed to be fair. I'll explain. I was called into the office to speak with loss prevention. I was being accused for putting something underneath the outside garbage can where I retrieved it later on. I was so confused, I didn't even understand what was going on. There was no proof, no anything, or she didn't present me with anything at least. Just complete conjecture. Then I was told I was fired. I was in shock, not really understanding what that really meant. And for some reason, I just thought that I was able to finish out my day. And I went back to finish a job that had started before walking into the office. But I was told soon after to get my stuff and clock out. I was still trying to process everything, but I just chalked up the reason that me and my manager didn't really get along. But either way, it just wasn't fair to be accused of something and being retaliated against. But the world is a nasty place.
It will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it.
For my next job, I went back to the fast food industry, working at Burger King. I ended up working there during my senior year of high school. What that job taught me was how to be goal-oriented. That job was designed specifically to pay for senior trip and prom. For the first time, I've actually had a job to serve a purpose. Now, my next job wasn't my proudest moment, but things happen for a reason, and I definitely learned a valuable lesson. Not to be stupid.
You could just go ahead and make sure you do that from now on. That would be great.
See, I worked for a drugstore where I developed photos. Well, one morning, my manager told me that LP was coming in to visit. Well, my friend came in later on that afternoon to pick up photos that she dropped off. I'm sure she's watching this right now and probably shaking her head. Again, not my fondest moment. So I proceeded to ring her up, where then I manipulated the price. And I told her, hey, go wait for me in the car. I'll be out in a minute. Whether I was done for the day or my lunch break, I can't remember. Well, instead, she waited for me outside of the store and started to look through her photos. Well, my manager and LP was also outside smoking a cigarette. Not sure what possessed them to ask her to look at the receipt. Maybe because they knew that she was my friend and wanted to make sure I wasn't going to do anything stupid. But unfortunately, their intuition was correct. Needless to say, I was fired on the spot. This time I knew what fired meant. I still cringe at myself for doing that. Moving on. So I got my first corporate job working for a bank dealing with all different types of loans, such as conventional loans, equity loans, etc. I had a huge room full of files. So whenever anybody requested a file, they had to come through me. Well, what I learned from this job is that opportunity could really just come from anywhere. My supervisor randomly suggested that I should work in EMS. I didn't even know what that meant. After he explained it all to me, I thought it sounded like something that I would be interested in doing. My biggest issue was I needed to keep moving. I couldn't be behind a desk having a routine. Plus, I'll be working in public service. So I figured, let me give it a shot. I don't think I've ever read a book cover to cover before joining the EMS program. I couldn't put that textbook down. It was such a great job. It was my first real job. I met a lot of great people. I was certified in 2 states. I worked for private agencies, hospitals, even the fire department. I've learned the importance of teamwork, how to work under stressful situations, how to multitask, and what it's like to have complete strangers become family. I did that for over 13 years. I even worked for a county college assisting with teaching the subject and creating scenarios with students. Unfortunately, EMS doesn't pay nearly as it should. So I tried my luck with sales. I found that a buddy of mine had left an executive position to become a sales associate. I thought he lost his mind. But after a few months, he showed me a check. I don't think I've ever seen a check that had a comma before. So I immediately asked him, where do I sign up? It was my first job that I decided to work for solely for the money. Been chasing that ever since. Sales really taught me that you get out what you put into it. Since it was commission, I knew there was no ceiling to what I could be making. So I spent most of my time figuring out how to make the most out of all of my opportunities. Because I already learned how to set goals for myself, it started to become natural. Transparency was one of the company's core values. So I would come in and our numbers would be posted. I never really knew that I had a competitive side, but I definitely used that as motivation. I think I made like double than what I made in EMS, and I didn't have to get spit at or pissed on. Just wear a nice suit and let the customers come to you. I feel like it was easy money. It was a really good company too. I started when it had about 30 stores, and I helped grow it to one of the biggest furniture retailers in the country. I even got the opportunity to become a manager, but that's another subject for another time. I worked for that company for about 10 years, but I felt like my time with that company was coming to an end. And here we are to present time. I had just graduated from college and figured with my extensive experience, I could be more valuable somewhere else. Well, by this time, COVID had hit. Not many people were hiring, not many people were in business. Not really sure how we got into this subject, but me and my fiance were talking about trucking. When she used to work at a bank, she used to deposit checks for a customer that was in trucking. Didn't even know they made that much. So I went down this rabbit hole, doing research about trucking, if I'll even enjoy doing it. If you saw my last video, you know that I nearly gave that up. So what have I learned from trucking so far? That money isn't everything. It's not that money isn't everything, but it's not what should be important. Zig Ziglar once said, money won't make you happy, but everybody wants to find out for themselves. And it took me over 20 years to figure that out. We all define what's important to us differently, but being away from my loved ones, I now know they mean more to me than anything else. So let's recap. Be responsible, and perhaps introduce yourself to 5 a.m. once in a while. Don't cut corners. Life isn't there to be fair to you. Set goals. Don't be stupid. Recognize opportunity as they could come from anywhere. Work as a team. Find something that will constantly motivate you. And lastly, what defines your happiness? I hope you all could take a little something from my past experiences. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate it. See you next time.